How inspiring. Now, I'm interested. Now, you saw my face, and you probably know my question. Um, you went deep. You went very deep. And the learnings that you brought out of that and the transformation and transcendence that you experienced, where and how, like, how is it that you start? Because a half an hour a day, now that's a commitment. And what about those, and some people that are probably listening right now, they're thinking half an hour, give me 5 minutes,
Yeah.
So how do we translate some of that? What do you have for us?
Yes, beautiful. Great question. So yes, like I said, that's what was available to me at that time. But, we've come a long way. Well, first of all, I highly recommend if you can do 10 minutes a day, that's the perfect place to start. Because honestly, the first phase of your practice, it's going to be pretty subtle. But what you want to do is establish the routine, establish the habit. Mm-hmm. So initially, what we're mainly talking about is positive behavior change. If you know that this is something you want to explore, the first biggest hurdle is, proving to your brain or convincing your brain that it's worth carving out any time at all for it, and getting your brain in the habit of, because we want to do what's comfortable and familiar to us, partially because from the mind's perspective, that is in one way more efficient, right? It's like, oh, if I just go into my routine, well then, that doesn't take as much energy as if I do this other thing, which I'm not used to doing. If I do this other thing I'm not used to doing, that takes extra energy, and I don't even know if it's worth the investment of time, right? So you can fall into lots of traps. And then if you add to that you don't quite understand what you're doing when you sit and meditate, which is a problem that unified mindfulness really tries to help people solve, giving them clarity about what they're doing so that confusion is eliminated from the mix. But let's say you have confusion about that and you're not sure whether you should commit the time, and your mind prefers to fall into its familiar grooves. That's really what you're working against in the early stage of practice. So the workaround is commit to a time you'll actually do. And most people can pull off 10 minutes. So let's say 10 minutes just to get you started. And you fall into that routine, and eventually it does seem weird if you don't do it. And that's what we want to get to, the point where your mind is like used to it, comfortable. Oh yes, this is the thing I do. I do this thing where I practice for 10 minutes. So that's one thing. Another thing is that this approach, unified mindfulness, once we take a skills-based approach, once we say, okay, there is a certain set of skills, well, then you're freed from having to do it while seated in silence with the eyes closed. There's an advantage, which is that when you're seated in silence with the eyes closed, there are less distractions, which makes it easier to notice subtleties in your experience. And Shinzen likes to say subtle is significant. So there's a kind of a key there if you can notice subtleties. However, when you understand how to practice in daily life, you can do it while you exercise, you can do it while you're eating, and suddenly now you've got your time back, which is so precious. And actually, you can have deep insights and deep practice experiences doing it while you're exercising, for instance. So it's very smart in terms of getting around the normal hurdles that we have of, gee, I don't have enough time, I hate sitting still, right? So we overcome those hurdles by saying, okay, 10 minutes, okay, do it in action, do it in exercise. So that's the answer to that.